Hello, everyone. Good afternoon to all of you. Thank you so much for being here. Once again, we have Igor here. This time with another very interesting topic. And so, thank you again, Igor, for having the time to talk with us. It's really always a pleasure. So every time we speak, I get amazing new ideas of things that we can do, because it's all of the stuff that you bring us is so out of the box that it's really interesting. And for today's topic, Igor, I would just like to start by saying that. Well, for someone that has worked for almost 20 years in the HR business, uh, I would say that I would never put the word like creativity and HR together. Not, I don't mean this in a bad way for anyone listening, but the thing is, most of the times when I was hired to be an HR manager or an HR director, what happens is HR is most of the times the keeper, the safeguardian of the way the things should be done. So to keep things like more rigorous and not have that much creativity is a good thing for HR in the normal perspective of the way things go. So imagine for an employee, HR is mostly seen as the safe space. So I know that if I go there, the procedures are those. So it's always almost the same thing. And so creativity and HR, I think this is the most interesting topic for us to talk, because although it's the norm, I don't think it's the best way for HR to behave. Mostly nowadays, when things are so digital and things are so transformative. So, but I would say that for most companies, we are still in that place that HR is the safe space where things are always the same, and they keep almost like the place where I go when I need to know how things are to be done. So, what's your view on this, Igor?
First of all, Miguel, sorry, I was a little bit late. You started the meeting already. I want to say that for me, having these meetings with you every month is a kind of tradition now. I mean, I love this. I love this time because we can meet, we can discuss something, we can have a nice talk, having this long distance between us. I mean,
Yes.
I'm still staying in São Paulo and you're in Lisbon, and I mean, it's so good time for me to share some ideas and discuss. That's not only about, it's not a lecture, it's a discussion. So thank you very much for this opportunity. I hope we will have much more topics to discuss and much more material. Secondly, when you started talking about and asking me about creativity, I can say that creativity can be found in any sphere. But before I will explain this, I want to ask you, Miguel, how will you define the creativity and the creative approach? How do you think what it is?
It's well, I'm going to speak now from an HR perspective. For
Yes,
instance,
please. Yes, please. You can.
for instance, in several projects that I've had, uh, I had to be creative in the most simplest way. For instance, to create a new procedure. I'm going back to the beginning of my career when, imagine, there was nothing, and I needed to come up with something that would be like the right procedure to do something. And that was kind of a creative process. Sometimes it would be a lonely process because it would be my own creation, and I would not have anyone besides myself thinking about the way it should be done. Other ways,
Mhm.
when I moved forward and I started having like new positions where I had a team, there the creative process was like more of a discussion between people where we tried to have like a consensus on what the procedures would be uh, more about. But creativity was more or less like creating something. It's not always something new. Sometimes it's it can also be like improving something that already exists. This can also be creativity. But like I mentioned in HR, Igor, what I found is that uh, when you have too much creativity and you lose that kind of safe
Uh-huh.
space where you have the procedure needs to remain the same for a period of time, so you cannot be changing all the time. So if your internal communication is done in a certain way, you cannot expect like every quarter to try and change, and now it's WhatsApp, and then you change from WhatsApp to another tool, and then another tool, and then another tool. That creates some sort of people tend to look at it in a bad way, and
Mm-hmm.
so it's not good creativity. Sometimes when something new appears, to be the first one there is not always the right approach. So you need to understand the company, you need to understand the culture, and you need to understand what can work in a period of time, not look at the present moment, but
Mm-hmm.
also try to foresee the future and what the future might be. So creativity more or less is like creating something new or improving something that already exists.
Exactly. You just answered exactly what I wanted. Creativity is always about creating something new. But um, first of all, I want to say that we are going to talk about mostly communications
Yeah.
and communicate processes right now. But it doesn't mean that creativity can't be applied in other spheres. I mean, even accounting sphere or any kind of processes which were already set in the company, they can be rethought or according to the situation which constantly changes around us. And if you do this and you implement something new, new steps, new way of solving something, it's always about creativity. And I want to say, and that is very important, that creativity exists in every sphere. There are no sphere where there is no creativity. It doesn't mean that agencies is the only space where people produce something bright,
Yeah.
and those people who work, for example, the taxi drivers or accountants, as I already said, they don't have this. They always have space for creativity. But it's important to say that it will be much easier for me to explain, to show something new in communications. But I want to say that, yes, it's about making something new. We got used to the fact that we usually borrow some processes, borrow some patterns, and we use the same patterns constantly. So at the very moment when we start thinking about another pattern, another another way of doing something, another tool, the creativity starts working. Because if nobody did it before and you try to implement something new, that is the moment when creativity starts working. So that is very important to say. And when you said that the HR sphere is rather rigid and say not that active, you are right, because nobody tries to bring this to this sphere. But when we met last time, with the last two previous times, I showed several examples, and all these examples were about implementing creativity and
Yeah.
creative approach, and something new appears, something which never existed before. But why do we need this? Because in modern world, I will try to explain it briefly. In modern world, there are so many medias which try to fight for our attention. So there are lots of Netflix, different advertising channels in Facebook, and that people who post their photos, and they all of them try to grab a tiny bit of your attention, a minute, a second, an hour. And creativity is made to produce something new, because only new things and unusual things can attract our attention in this huge noise. That is why the creativity which we will discuss today, is made to make people stop for a second or for a minute and pay attention to our communication and remember. So there are two main aims: to make people focus on this and make people remember for longer period of time. So that's the main thing which
Igor,
is needed.
Can I
Yes, please.
just share, because when I was preparing for this, I remember like one of the last things that I did, and this was about employer branding. It's HR communication, but it's mostly about employer branding. So I entered a company that I had like a great problem, and I think this applies for most companies that are large. So, and the problem that I had is that the company had a digital policy that didn't allow me to do anything. So
Mhm,
when you enter the company, you receive the document that said you cannot post on behalf of the company, you cannot like, you cannot share, you cannot do. It's almost you cannot, you cannot. And
mhm, mhm,
so the first thing that I did there was approach the top management, and I said, "This is not the right way." And so
mhm,
I changed it, and I created a new digital policy. But the next step that I did is everything that you just mentioned, because we had a problem, and the problem was regarding recruitment. And so what I noticed when I entered that company was that uh, what we were publishing had almost no one liked, no one shared, nothing. So engagement was very, very low. And so the main thing that I did was creative, but not that creative. It worked not because it was the best solution in the world, but what I did was I tried to look at it from the perspective of the worker. And so the thing was, the job adverts were mostly about the spaces of the company. No people there, so there were no people there. And so what
mhm,
I changed was I did just a minor shift. And when I had a job advert for a specific job role, I asked someone from that specific job role to take a picture, and that person was the face of the job advert. Afterwards, and this goes exactly to the point that you were making. We had imagine a hallway, and then we had like a place where you could put like photos, information, whatever.
mhm, mhm,
And what
mhm,
I did was I placed the job adverts. I printed the job adverts and I put them there. And so when everyone went to the cafeteria, that was right a hallway on the road to the
mhm,
cafeteria,
mhm,
they stopped and they
mhm,
looked at it and they said, "Well, this is John. This is," and people started this, got in motion, like a new way of looking at the job adverts, and we increased referrals, internal referrals, by a lot. So, and this was just a minor shift, Igor, from like this was nothing, but it was almost like a
That's
creative.
a good example. I
Yeah,
really love this example because, first of all, you changed something and tried something which was never used before,
yeah,
and that is always a first step to produce something creative. Secondly, you had a task, and I'm gradually moving to the first case, which I will share with
yeah,
you. But sometimes the task doesn't suit to the tools which you have right now. So somebody says we have to attract more people, but your channels are not giving you this amount of people which you need right now. So you have to think about something else, and that is what people usually say. Name to think out of the box. Like, okay, let's move out and look around. What other means to do
yeah,
this, or tools we have? And that is what you just described. You said, okay, we didn't have these people, but why shouldn't we try this to put these job openings on the wall? That is a really good example when the task doesn't suit the tools which you have, and you start thinking about other ways.
hmm,
And I love this example because it's not that, as you just said, it's not that, what to say, complicated, or
yeah.
it's not that unusual, but still it worked. And that
It's
is
not
what I
the
wanted to.
examples that you gave us from AI from our last conversation. So it's not,
Yes, kind of.
yeah,
It's kind of, but still it's the same. So it doesn't mean that creativity is those are only those cases which you can see on Cannes Lions Festival or something like that. Creativity can happen every day on every step of your work or task or your daily routine. So you can find new means, new ways. And that is what I want to say. You can always improve things around you, having this view from above. Like you go out, look at it, and think, okay, why shouldn't I use something else and do this? If you will agree with this, I want to show you the first case. But
Perfect.
I have so many cases because the topic today is really wide, and I have so many cases.
Go
So
right ahead.
I decided to do it like this. I want to emphasize to show one particular, how to say, one particular uh, tool in every case, which helped to produce it. And I want you and all the people who will watch this podcast, this video, to have this list of tools later. And maybe they will use either one or several of them. But I want to show how different ideas appear, for sure, using examples which I already mentioned. But that is really, really important to explain the creativity tools range, not range, but set of creativity tools is really big. So you can find lots of different ways to find new ideas, but you have to understand that another thing which you have to understand that creativity, from my point of view, is all about mechanics. It's not about insights which come into your head. It's not about having, some people say you are creative and I'm not, but it's not true. There is no such thing as creativity as the trait of characters. It's
Yeah.
all about using special patterns of thinking and trying to implement them. So what I want to say, first of all, my first example is really close to yours because I wanted to start with another example, but your example guided me to this idea. I wanted to say that sometimes the task is not, uh, it is not, how to say, the task makes you go forward, go out of the, I know this, the word fora de caixinha. And yeah, yes,
Perfect.
thank you.
Perfect.
And so sometimes these tasks I can set the idea itself. When we work in the agency, we usually say that proper brief already has the idea inside of it. So you don't need to spend time somewhere looking for ideas. It is already inside of this brief, but brief should be made properly. So my first example is the case which we made here in Brazil for the company which looked for IT people. This company is called Samkia. It's a IT provider, huge IT provider. And
Doesn't
I will
exist in
share.
Portugal. Doesn't exist in Portugal, Igor. Yeah.
Their roots are somewhere in India, so I'm not sure that they started there. But my point here is the next client. When they came to us, they said, "Hey guys, we need to." I will find this case. Sorry, it's here. Client asked us to make something, something which will make people who will come to the career fair remember this career fair and remember the company. And they also said, hey guys, we know that many people on career fairs, they come to the stand, grab the leaflet and leave. And we will never see these guys later, ever. So can you do anything which will make people stay with us? But career fair is all about visiting different places, not about staying at one
Yeah.
place. So we started thinking about this. And as I just said, for the Kashini, it's really important to look for other patterns, like other ways of behavior. And what idea we came with to this client. And the second point here was the next. I remember that we already discussed with you when I told you about Deloitte case that many people come just to grab the
Yeah.
merchandise, just to have something for free and leave. So these guys, they had a tiny stand, small stand, and they also had lots of merchandise like T-shirts, hoodies, backpacks, and other stuff. And they said, okay, we want just to give this to people, and that's all. So after some creative sessions, we came up with another idea. We said, why shouldn't people come to this event, and when they will see your stand, they will ask for this merchandise, for these things which usually they can have for free. But we will say that we have not a stand, but a shop. You see this? This is a 3D picture which
Yeah.
we made before, and we said, okay, that will look like an Apple store with tables. We will have goods on these tables, different merchandise items, and that will make people be interested in these items even more. Because if there is something which we can have for free that is not that interesting, than a thing which we can't have for free immediately. So we said, okay, you can buy this. But we also said, as our main task was to make people stay with this company during the whole day of the event, we said, okay, we will do another thing. When people were coming to our stand, we were giving them this kind of wristband. You see it on the lower part of the page. And this wristband contained RFID tag. Do you know what is it? It's
Yes,
like
yes, yes.
it's a
I don't know
tiny chip.
if anyone knows, yeah, but I'm sure most people know it. Yeah.
Yes, it's a tiny chip which can store information. Not so many, but it's like a storage space on your wrist. So we said to all the participants that this wristband is a wallet. So these people who came and wanted to receive who came to the stand and wanted to receive the merchandise, they had to buy it. So we were giving them these wristbands, and this wristband was the main reminder about the game, which we suggested to participants. And we said, okay, you have a number of tasks, like ask a question when Sankya's employee will speak on this event. Share some insights about about the ways how you choose your future employer. Make a photo and post it to your Instagram and so on. So there was a number of tasks, and there were kind of salary, I don't know, like points which people received when they fulfilled this task. This is how our stand looked like. And there
Hmm.
were not only goods which were physical, which I mean like t-shirts or hoodies, but there were other prizes like meeting with the fast track with human resources manager, something like a consultancy meeting with our people who will help you to improve your CV and so on. So people were coming there, they were grabbing these wristbands, and after that, the whole day they were going to other places, but they were having in their mind the fact that they have to earn these points faster to receive, to buy the prizes which Sankhya suggested faster. So all these people who were all around the event, that's the result, they were having these wristbands and they were trying to get points faster than others. So many companies later said, okay, they were coming, but they were still thinking to our stand, but they were still thinking about Sankhya and the way how they can get something. So that is what I wanted to say. Sometimes clients give you really strange tasks, like make people stay with us for a long time. But later, if you will think a little bit about it, you can find a way. And secondly, you can make people remember about you for the whole event, during the whole event. So that is, from my point, that is the way how creativity can be implemented. And our creative move here was really simple. We decided, why should we make another stand? Let's make a space station. Space station is just a strange example, but I think it was after some discussions, we found out the idea of the shop. Like, okay, let it be a store and we will sell something. And it worked really well. Another example, I'm not going to show you right now the video or images, but because we still didn't finalize the case, because it happened really not so long ago, the same kind of task was given to us by Deloitte again here in Brazil.
Hmm.
And they said that there is a huge conference. There is a city, Recife, which is situated on the north of Brazil. And this city has an island right in front of the center of the city, in front of the downtown. And this island usually every year is occupied by a huge conference. There are lots of stages where speakers give lectures, or there are some stands and other stuff. So people go there and they move from one place to another, and so it's not a tiny location; it's a huge island. And they asked us what we can do, and so the task was the same: how we can make people be interested in our activity. And we said, okay, you have the city. Why shouldn't we play Monopoly? So in Brazil, it's called Banco Imobiliário. and there is a Monopoly game which everybody knows from childhood. And we said, okay, we will put QR codes on not every, but on some buildings, some squares, some streets in the city. And we will say that those people who will find these places, read the QR code, cope with the task, they will get, so there was a tiny application, and so they will buy, so-called buy, so not in the real life, in the game, they will buy these venues. And those people who will have more buildings, more streets, more squares, later will receive prizes. And the mechanics, which is really strange itself, there was no monopoly in real life scale before. So the mechanics is strange, and that attracts people because they want to try something new always. And besides, the same mechanics made people stay with Deloitte activity for the whole day. They were attending different places. They were listening to speakers, but after that they were leaving, and they were started looking for QR codes again. So we made this monopoly game in a city scale, and it helped us to stand out, to make something which will attract people. So again, how company can do this? Company can come with a stand and leaflets, but company can also think about the venue, the main idea of the event, the main message which company brings to people, and somewhere in between of these topics, and between of this knowledge and information, they can find the idea which will be really unusual. And after that, it's only the production which will help you to bring it to life. So these two cases which I just shared, they had the same task, to make people stay with the company for a longer period of time in a place, in the event where people usually have really short contact with the company. And creativity can help you.
Yeah, for sure. Those are great examples, Igor. Well, not in the same way, but we at the Key Talent, I think I shared this one with you already also, but we used augmented reality, like we use it more or less, but there it's not like something used for fun,
Uh-huh.
because it's a group dynamic, Igor. So we are evaluating behaviors. So we use augmented reality to evaluate behaviors from people,
Mm-hmm.
but it's mostly the same. So what we try to do is we create the mechanics of the action that they imagine. They will try to discover a code that is embedded, and they received several different clues, and they have to mix all the clues to get the final result. um,
Mm-hmm.
and by doing so, we are evaluating their own behaviors on those tasks. But it's mostly the same. Yeah, you can transport more or less this into activities like the ones you shared. Yeah.
I want to add one important point. I said 10 minutes ago that I'm going to give some useful tips. And here's another useful tip for good creative product. If you want to attract attention of the auditory which you work with, you should understand where these people usually spend their whole day.
Yeah.
There is peculiar detail. When we got used to some space, place, or routine, it's not interesting for us. And that is why do children love fairy tales? That is because they stay in a city, they can't go anywhere out of the city. And when somebody gives them this setting,
Yeah,
setting
the
of this fairy
context.
tale,
Yeah.
they love to stay there. That is
Yeah.
why people love fantasy films. That is why people love to read books, because they can travel somewhere and stay there for some time, and our brain loves to change the setting. So my main point here is always the same. I always say that if you work with people who stay in the office, try to make the setting for your activity as far from the office as it's possible. For example, when you want to make I will show you some other examples right now, which will explain this fact, but that is what I want to say. When people go for a conference, they expect to be in the conference setting.
Yeah.
But then we say, did you ever visit Monopoly in real life? Like, to be so small so that you can play Monopoly in real life. And for many people, for grown-ups, not only for children, that is something really attractive. Like, okay, I want to try this. And here is my advice. And here is the advice how it should be done. Try always to bring to the top of your idea, activity, this strange fact. For example, I just said that there was a game, there were tasks, there were quizzes, there were prizes, and so on. So we could have called this game Quiz in the City.
Yeah.
But people won't understand. If you will call this, it will sound boring. Like, okay, it's another quiz, and it's the same city that I saw previously. If we say it's a monopoly in the real time scale, all people are there. So my advice here is try to find some distinctive trait, some distinctive idea, and always, if you have this idea, always put this idea to the front. Even if you have boring processes inside, call it in an unusual way, and people will pay much more attention because they love to travel to other realities. And here is another example which I wanted to share, and they loved it. This example is about internal communications because I wanted to show different types of communications to you today.
Okay.
And internal communication can be also a really great place for implementing of creative ideas. And here it is. In creativity, there are some tools which usually are called, like, sorry, it's okay. I can explain it like this. There is a creative methodic which is called lateral thinking. Edward de
Yes.
Bono produced this, and he named list of tasks. Oh, sorry, list of tools which you can use to produce new ideas. For example, there were tools like try to think about this in an opposite way. Try to think about tiny detail of this. Try to think how this product or idea can be connected with something which doesn't feud, and so on. So there was a number of this. And this example, which I want to share right now, shows how you can use something trying to think in an opposite way. Our client, that was a Russian company, and that was a telecom company. Our client came to us and said, guys, we need to explain the values, in corporate values, to our employees. But please bear in mind that our employees are mostly young people. So if you will put a poster with a rocket which flies high, it won't work because people usually don't pay attention. It's boring. It's what I just said. It's against something which was already used. So we started thinking about it. Their values were fast, interesting. So be always fast, make things which are interesting for you and other people. I forgot the third one. Sorry, it's here. Fast, honest. Be honest with you and your colleagues. So we decided, okay, what to entertain those young people? What can we do to make it in an unusual way? And we came up with the idea. We said that this idea should be given in an opposite way. So we produced spies. So these guys, whom you just saw on the screen, they
Yeah.
were called spies. And we explained, there was a long story about it. We said that bigger companies, this company was rather small, bigger companies sent spies to interfere, to make life of this company more difficult. And these spies were antipodes of our values. So first of these guys was a liar, second guy was slowpoke, and the third guy was boring guy. So we named this like this. And when we started the campaign, first of all, we put teasing messages all over the office. So one morning, people found messages. I will translate it to you. It's in Russian, but the people found messages like, okay, stay for a longer time in meeting room. Nobody will look for you, and maybe it will help you to have your personal time with you. So it was the
Yeah.
advice which was completely opposite to the things which company wanted people to make. But that is why it attracted attention. Other person said, okay, use as many paper sheets in the printer as you can. Call all your colleagues to the meeting. Maybe they don't need to be there, but maybe it will be better for you if you will. So these guys were giving different advices, which were not corresponding with their main cultural things at all.
This
And
is great,
people,
Igor.
thank you. And people started discussing this, like, what is happening? Who these guys are? Why we are seeing this advice? Then another thing happened. CEO of the company sent a message saying, "Hey guys, we should be really careful because we have spies inside our inside our company. So guys, I want you to help to catch these guys." And after that, a game started. So there was a game with a landing page, and every day this game lasted for 3 weeks or something like that. And each week was devoted to particular value, and we asked people to do something according to the value to get rid of the spies. For example, we were asking them, share your favorite books or films with your colleagues and explain why this film or book suits them. And when people did this, there were kind of points which were summed up on the side. And we saw that the more people participated, the faster this spy was sent out of the office. So it was like our legend. We were saying that, okay, we will make these spies leave our office. I think that is how our website looked like. There was a leaderboard. Here it is. So we were showing that they are disappearing,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
constantly when people play this game. So for everybody, there was a leaderboard and other stuff. So people from all over the Russia, from all different cities in the Russia, participated, played, and we never said to anybody that you have to be fast, you have to make interesting things, but using opposite messages like, oh no, stay for a longer time, don't do
Yeah,
this, don't
yeah, yeah.
share. We made people understand and pay attention to it even more than we could do this without using this idea. So there were lots of people participate. Sorry, it was 7 days. It was 7 days, but there were lots of people. This company is rather small. They had like 2,000 people and 1,200 participated. So it was so many participants, and we didn't expect this, but it worked pretty well. And after that, people even loved this hero so much that we produced tiny toys depicting
Physical,
this
yeah,
spice.
physical
Yes,
toys.
and
Yeah.
people love to have these toys on their desks because they were nice. Everybody loved, and that worked. So
Igor,
this is the way. Mhm.
now the question that I know that most people would like to ask: when you send messages like this, for most companies, I would say you would get top management saying this is not possible. So how did you get beyond and you get approval from top management?
As I just said, there were two factors. This company is rather young. They have lots of young people, and they're small. 2,000 people all over the country. It's not that big team. So their managers, they had this picture of the target audience, and they understood that this kind of idea will work much better. So it was not about us explaining why they should use this idea. It was about them looking for some agency who can produce this kind of idea. So it was a really good match between us and client, and they loved
Yeah,
it a
it's the
lot.
context. It's the
It's
context. I
exactly,
understand, Igor. But
exactly.
for most companies, if you put use more paper and spend more hours and do more meetings, that is a no, a complete no.
But everybody, I can explain it like this. There were no person who didn't understand who didn't understand these messages right. Everybody understood that it was a kind of joke, something unusual, because grown up grown up people, they usually understand what message looks like a proper corporate message and what message looks like a strange joke. And that is
Yeah,
why, again, people really pay attention, share, send to their friends when it's not like in an everyday life. And again, in previous ideas, I said about the setting, which should be not the same as your everyday life. Here is the same. They had offices, meeting rooms, and other stuff, but they never worked with spies. And when these cartoonish spies appeared all over the office, it was something which people didn't expect, and it attracted attention, and it made people understand that this
per-
thing works.
perfect example,
Another,
Igor. Yeah.
thank you very much. And another thing which I want to add here, as a kind of learning. If you have a campaign, try to make this campaign, try to set the frame of this campaign using visual identity, maybe some language or way of speaking, because there are so many things around us that it's really easy to lose your target audience, the person from your target audience on this way. So when we had this cartoonish style and strange messages which used opposite statements, people started to understand that all these things are part of one campaign, one game. So always try to make a frame for your
Yeah. Yeah.
campaign, and this frame should be different from other frames inside of your company, but at the same time it should be consistent and it should explain the main idea. But again, that is the example of a creative idea and the way how it can
Yeah.
attract
It's
people involved.
just from my experience, Igor. I I find this truly interesting because when we approach most companies, it's always so static and so formal.
Mm-hmm.
So not lots of space for this type of creativity. So most companies are looking for like I don't know, like the most outlandish stuff that we did is like I think like enlarge people or put people very small, but never go much beyond that sort of stuff. So I don't know if it's a cultural thing, Igor, because
Uh-huh.
I'm not. I don't know really well the Russian culture, but I know the Brazilian culture, and I know that they are more open. They are a lot more open than ourselves here
Yes, that's true.
in
That's
Portugal
true.
and in Europe
Mm-hmm.
overall. In Europe
Mm-hmm.
overall, we are more like formal guys, and so whenever we start to present like an outlandish idea like that, normally if it goes beyond the first step, normally it gets a barrier on the second step. It doesn't go much further than the second people that we talk to. But I
Mm-hmm.
think mostly it can be a cultural thing, or it can be something like we don't have perspective of if things work or not. So we don't have the view from the outside, like stuff like this. It worked in Russia, it worked in Brazil, it worked elsewhere. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think this is also a problem that we have. We are little, we are small, and so we are so focused on the stuff that is happening here within our own country that it sometimes limits the perspective that we have in regards to what can be done.
You know, I I agree that Brazil. I mean, I can agree that Brazil is creative. It is the country with creative culture because they gain most of the award. Latin American countries usually gain really lot tons of awards on creative or on Cannes Lions and other festivals. But I think that it doesn't depend. So all people are the same. All brains are the same. But
Yeah.
some cultures say to you that you shouldn't stand out or do something which is not usual. And other cultures usually kind of empower you and say, yes, let's try something new. Why not? And that is why Sao Paulo is full of the graffitis and murals, and people try to express themselves, to draw, to make something new. And so the whole culture every day says to you, let's do something new, let's try this. And people are more, how to say, they are kind of, they have the support around them. But
Yes.
what I want to say that in every country, I think it's just a matter of the first step. You have to start, and after that, many companies will come to you and say, "Hey, how did you do this? Hey, how did you start? How did you come to this?" And that is my personal mission today on this meeting, to show that it's not hard. I mean, it's not the thing which is done only somewhere in the agencies with the big-headed guys who can produce only. Not everybody can do this, but you have to start. And how to start? To have this reverse engineering, to understand how this or that case was, how it started, how it was produced, and how it was sold to the client. And I agree with you, not all companies are ready for this. So you have to look for your company. You have to find somebody who will be ready to try it with you. But there is no difference. In every country it can work, and in every country right now, when the world is so globalized, you can find so many examples of creative solutions, and you can share it with your colleagues. And sooner or later, there will be team who will be ready to support you and help. My another advice today will be to set a list of festivals. There is a list, like in a cinema sphere. There is a set of festivals which start in summer and gradually go to Cannes Lions, Golden Drum, Effie, and others. So you can start tracking the main works of these festivals, and it will help a lot, because when you start looking and at other at the examples of the cases of other people, you start thinking in the same way. So you always borrow some ideas. It's good to borrow. It's not about stealing, it's about borrowing. You start borrowing some ideas or some ways of thinking, and sooner or later you will start producing yourself. So in our agency, we usually organize internal events to watch Ken's cases, and we do not only watch, we try to disassemble this case, try to understand, how did they find it, and it helps the whole team to start thinking in the same way. That is my simple, maybe obvious example, but it works pretty well all the time.
Perfect.
Another thing which I wanted to share, I have a presentation in which there are some slides which I wanted to show to you. And I want also to share to give some ideas which can help you. Sorry, just a second, I will open it. I don't know why it's, sorry, just 1 second. And I want to show you, I have 3, let's say, tiny examples. Yes, I think this presentation. And this one is really simple. Do you see the picture on
Now it's loading.
IKEA?
Yeah. IKEA.
Okay, great.
IKEA. Yeah.
This case is very simple. It's very simple, but I want you to understand that sometimes creativity can exist very good creative examples in a very simple for a very simple problem. That is what we started with, Miguel. When I said that everybody can do this. So this is the car. So this is a car with the board on its back. And this car was used in Austria to invite people to work in IKEA. But usually when you invite people to work in your company, you say, okay, this company is situated in the middle of the city, right? So you can't tell how much time it will take for every particular candidate to get there, because all people live in different places, right?
Yeah.
So can we cope with this problem? And these guys coped with this problem. They put a car, they put this sign, walk to your new job in. And after that, they put a screen, tiny screen, which constantly changed minutes. That happened because they had GPS tracker on this car. And this GPS tracker and computer inside of the car were constantly counting the time to walk by foot to this IKEA office, to this new IKEA office. So when car was in one district, it was showing 10 minutes. When it was in another district, it was showing 15 minutes. In the third district, it was just 5. But that is, Miguel, that is very simple, as I said in the very beginning, but very smart way to attract attention and to do very simple job. We usually need to say, it's not far from your home. But when we say this, we are lying already, because we don't know where people live, and that thing helped a lot. So when you look at this thing, you can understand that people have very simple task. Okay, how we can tell people about this? Maybe we can make a separate posters for every district, but it can be expensive. What can be more technological and unusual? It can be screen which will change this data, and that's all. So it's very, very simple, but sometimes it can be very, very creative. Another thing, I know that we have 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
So another thing which I wanted to share, it's not our case, and previous also wasn't ours, but I love these cases. I want to share this case. This case is based on a good insight. What is insight? Insight is the barrier which person usually has in his mind, in his or her mind. And also some need or some interest and the barrier. So you want something, you can't get this, and you never do anything to reach this thing. That's the thing which usually psychologists work with. When you go to a psychologist, they try to help to find what barriers you have in your mind and help you to cope with those barriers. But there is such thing which advertising companies usually use. They use brand to help you to cope with this barrier. And in this case, you remember the company much better. I hope I explained it pretty well, but you will understand it from the example. So this example was made on some career fair. I don't really remember what was it, in what city, in what country it was, but it was very smart. The idea was the next. People usually come to the career fairs alone. Sometimes they come alone without any friends. And if you're alone, it's so hard for you to start communicating, because in our culture, it's not normal to start talking to every person you meet, right? I mean, it's not always. For you, it can be comfortable because you're a media person. You participate in lots of events. But for most of the people, it's not that easy. So company KPMG wanted to share the idea that it's always good to work in a team. But unfortunately, it was really hard to explain that make a team is really easy if you enter the company. So KPMG put a screen. Do you see on
Yes.
sorry, on my slide, a screen with the special, I think PlayStation or Xbox, I mean Microsoft Xbox, they produce special equipment which helps you to turn your gaming console into the console which you can interact with your gestures, not with the joystick,
Okay.
but gestures. So it's the special camera which can read what happens in front of it and turn it into some activities on the screen. So they put this camera and they said, okay, there is a game. This is the screenshot of the game in which this balloon had to fly through the village. But there was a peculiar detail. You had to operate this balloon using bending to the left or bending to the right. So when you bend to the left, the balloon flies to the left and vice versa. But at the same time, there was a tiny problem. If you operated this balloon alone, this balloon was turning slowly. So there was no chance to lead this balloon to the end of the game. But if there were several people in front of the screen, they did all the actions simultaneously, this balloon was moving much faster and easier. And so the main message, it was not a message. The main idea there was to make people to collaborate. And what happened on this activity? I don't have video, but I saw this case. People started talking with each other. So for example, I come to the stand. I wasn't near the stand, and somebody was saying, you can get the prize if you will guide the balloon till the end. But you need a team. And people, when they had this task, they start talking to other people like, hey, guy, come here. I don't know you. Let's get acquainted. There is a game. I need somebody. And people were collaborating. They were playing. They received their prizes. But what happened after? After they had a thought, maybe blurry thought, but still the thought in their head that KPMG made something which helped them to be more active, brave, and start communicating and gain prize afterwards. So the game itself was really simple, but the message and the main idea of this game was really deep, and I love the fact because people, they can't get rid of this shyness. I mean, they can't start. But when you have the task which makes you talk to other people, you overcome this obstacle, this barrier, and you start doing something. So this was a really good example of making people do something they never were able previously and which they never analyzed previously. And after they did this, a company, the message stayed in their head. So this is a really good example of creative way of making people remember that this company is all about empowerment and teamwork. So I love this case, and I hope you understood this case. So
yes, I did.
I share.
No, it's perfect, Igor. It's really, I think it's really simple to understand. No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. I can give you another example, by the way.
Another one. We have 5 minutes, Igor. If you have another one,
no.
yes.
About this one, I want to share. When we were tiny agency, really small, and we made events for our clients. we saw also that some clients can't talk to each other, and we made a special cocktail, which was given only to those people who just got in contact in Facebook. So we made people talk to each other and make new friends without our help. And only after that they will get. So it was the manipulation, but it was really smart and good manipulation.
For
So
sure.
yes, you just gave me a chance to tell about last case. I can share this case. I love this case also, and this case was made by our team, uh, and
Okay.
it has really strange setting again. There was
A
there
coffee
was a
cup. A coffee.
no, it's about fountains. It's about fountains. So there is a company, telecom company, big telecom company in one of the Russia regions, and this telecom company had really a strange problem. Many people thought that they have only call center. So when they invited IT people to work with this inside of this company, IT people refused because they said, "I don't want to work in a call center." But they had a fully operational office, so everything was like in their headquarters, but they didn't have any a chance to change this idea. So we decided to make a PR activity, which later spread itself widely in this region. What did we do? We found a dancing fountain. This is the real image of this dancing fountain in this region. So you know what is it, right? The fountain which uses music and the
Yes.
height of the lights and the water to make a show. So we decided to use this fountain, and we invited lots of different people to participate in a hackathon. During this hackathon, they had to program this fountain to make this fountain start dancing according to their music, so we wanted people to make their own shows for the central
Okay.
fountain. But when people made so it was everything happened inside of the office of the company, and there were not so many people. But that was not our main aim. Our main aim was the final show, because we didn't say who won this hackathon. We invited all the participants to the central square, and we showed all their works on the real fountain in the center of the city. And at the same time, we invited radio stations, TV channels, bloggers. All these people shared. So all these people came there and shared information that this company is not a usual. Sorry, it's not a call center, but it's an office which have really good IT expertise. To make this, we could have make a conference, for example, but
Yes.
conferences are
Yes.
boring. But hackathon, which made people program the fountain, was something unusual. So there were winners who got the
And who chose
monetary
the
prize.
winners, Igor? Who chose the winners? Was it the
Who,
audience?
no. It was yes, audience chose what show was the best, but their code and their way of dealing with the code was evaluated by the IT heads, IT leads of the company. But the
Okay.
main take from this idea is the fact that if you make an unusual activity, a hackathon with the fountain, hack the fountain, all the channels like bloggers and TV channels, they are much more eager to share it because it's unusual. And that's what we used to spread the idea. And the next day after the event, lots of mothers, grandmothers, wives came to their husbands and sons and told, "Did you hear about this company? They are so unusual and
Yeah.
creative and technological." So this is another way how creativity can help you to change the way company is seen by the audience.
So the next day,
That's
the
all.
fountain went back to the normal.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
We rented this fountain just for one evening, but it was really hard way, and I can say that we had to send letters to the government to make us arrange the event, to the company which was in charge of the fountain. So it was really hard. It was so long way, but it worked.
And even the code, because the language of coding, it might not be as simple as that. I don't know.
I
Yeah.
didn't explain this because this fountain used old-fashioned perfo cards. Do you
Yeah.
remember this
Yeah.
old? So it was not a new one. So we had to produce kind of bridge between C++, the Python, and others to these cards. So we made much more than these guys, those guys. But we knew that the most important thing is not the hackathon itself, but the impression and the image which we build in the minds of those people.
Igor, once again, amazing examples. Always a
Thank
pleasure.
you.
And I really hope, Igor, that we keep up with more of these talks because, as you said, for me, it's always a real pleasure to talk with you. And even if you want to bring some guests, I for sure. I don't know if you are allowed to bring some people that you work with, colleagues of yours, to share
Sure, sure.
some of the way you are doing things. It's perfect.
You mean for
So
the next podcast, for the next episode?
yeah, for sure, Igor.
Sure, let's do it. Why not?
Yeah,
We are really ready to share. Maybe we can discuss some particular cases and tell every step of the production, because sometimes it's interesting what problems we had. People usually share only success cases, but
yeah,
for other
yeah,
people, it's interesting to know more about problems. We can do this for sure. But
for sure.
this time, I
No,
wanted
just to go inside your own creative process, Igor. Maybe with some guys of your team, something like
we
that.
can do this.
You choose. We will talk and we will see. And for all of us attending, thank you so much. Have a great holiday, everyone.
Thank
We'll
you
be
very
back
much.
on January with another
With another episode, yes, with
episode
another topic.
of this Make Love series. Thank you so
I
much.
hope you will invite us again and we will prepare
For
something
sure,
unusual
Igor.
again.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Miguel.
Bye
It was
bye.
nice to see you. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Bye bye.
Ciao, ciao.